Hello, readers and friends. I have a tale for you today. So today, as you know, I like to give my blood to people. Not for fun, but for safety reasons, I guess. For medical reasons, yes. So today, I gave my blood. So while I was headed to campus to give my blood, I parked and I thought to myself, well, I should try and pay my parking ticket, even though it's probably fine. Like, are they really? First of all, one of the first parking lot that I got to was closed. So I was like, I'm gonna pay for my parking anyways, because that seems like the right thing to do. So then I was hoofing it across campus because the only parking lot that was open was a 15-minute walk away from the donation center. I'm like trying to work out their app and their app wouldn't work. So I was like, the parking lot's closed. There's all these signs that say campus is closed. What are the odds that any little parking violation guy is running around in a golf cart right now trying to ticket tuition paying students? Well, readers, the odds were high. So while I was hooked up to the blood giving machine, UCLA, while my blood was flowing out of my body into the UCLA's coffers of blood, they ticketed me $75. So you can bet your ass that I'm disputing that because that is not cute. They took my blood and my money. I paid them to take my blood, essentially, is what they're trying to say. And I don't think that's cute or right. Thank you. So anyways, we do not stand UCLA on this blog, very unfortunately. She has not been cute to us today, or really ever when you think about it. So yeah, anyways, at UCLA and tell them to not do that because I'm not paying. Take it out of my tuition check. Add it to the Bruin bill. See what I care. A lot. A lot is what I care. All right, let's do this. I think we can do two. No, never mind. Maybe. Am I lying? We may never know. What is with this? Okay. Let's do it. Thank you. This is the content that I'm looking for. The viewer support I desperately crave. All right. Oh yes, I'm supposed to do a chapter recap. What happened yesterday? Not a lot. Yes, I'm really proud of my caption for yesterday's thingy. What am I trying to say? For yesterday's recap on when like the YouTube video is real and it has a description. There we go. And it's my description was Mr. T, not Mr. Tumnus, unfortunately, is back. That's this in this house we support Mr. Tumnus. Okay, let's do it. Wow, maybe I should watch the Chronicles of Narnia again. No, that was probably written in the 40s. Nuts. Okay. Here we go. Northanger Abbey, Chapter 11. The morrow brought a very sober-looking morning, the sun making only a few efforts to appear, and Catherine augured from it. It's like agued, but with an R. Augured? Yeah. Augured from it. Everything most favorable to her wishes. A bright morning so early in the year she allowed would generally turn to rain, but a cloudy one foretold improvement as the day advanced. Oh my god, I have to mail my brother's birthday gift. I just remembered. We're good. It was yesterday, so folks, we're not doing well. City of Los Angeles will have 2 chances to ticket me today. I lost it. Okay. She applied to Mr. Allen for confirmation of her hopes, but Mr. Allen, not having his own skies and barometer about him, declined giving any absolute promise of sunshine. She applied to Mrs. Allen, and Mrs. Allen's opinion was more positive. I have no doubt in the world of its being a very fine day if the clouds would only go off and the sun keep out. About 11 o'clock, however, a few specks of small rain upon the windows caught Catherine's watchful eye, and, oh dear, I do believe it will be wet. Wait, never mind, wrong voice. Oh dear, I do believe it would be wet, broke her from her in a most desponding tone. I thought how it would be, said Mrs. Allen. No walk for me today, sighed Catherine. Me every day deciding not to do the one form of exercise I will consent to. Um, but perhaps it has come to nothing, or it may hold up before 12. Perhaps it may be, but then, my dear, it will be so dirty. Oh, that will not signify. I never mind dirt. No, replied her friend very placidly. I know you never mind dirt. um, After a short pause, it comes out faster and faster, said Catherine as she stood watching a window. So it does indeed. If it keeps raining, the streets will be very wet. There are 4 umbrellas up already. Oh, I hate the sight of an umbrella. They are disagreeable things to carry. I would much rather take a chair at any time. Me realizing it's not a physical chair. Oh no. I, I haven't been reading it like that. But maybe now I will. It was such a nice looking morning. I felt so convinced it would be dry. Anybody would have thought so indeed. There will be very few people in the pump room if it rains all the morning. I hope Mr. Allen will put on his greatcoat when he goes, but I dare say he will not, for he'd rather do anything in the world than walk out in a greatcoat. I wonder he should dislike it. It must be so uncomfortable. The rain continued, fast, though not heavy. Catherine went every 5 minutes to the clock, threatening on each return that if it still kept raining another 5 minutes, she would give up the matter as hopeless. The clock struck 12, and still it rained. You will not be able to go, my dear. I do not quite despair yet. I shall not give it up till 12:15. This is just the time of day for it to clear up. I do think it looks a little lighter. There, it is 20 minutes after 12, and now I shall give up entirely. Oh, that we had such weather here as they had at Adolfo, or at least in Tuscany in the south of France. The night that poor Saint Aubin died. Such beautiful weather. At 12:30, when Catherine's anxious attention to the weather was over, and she could no longer claim any merit from its amendment, the sky began voluntarily to clear. A gleam of sunshine took her quite by surprise. She looked round. The clouds were parted. Returned to the window to watch over and encourage the happy appearance. Made it certain that a bright afternoon would succeed, and justified the opinion of Mrs. Allen, who had always thought it would clear up. But whether Catherine might still expect her friends, whether there had not been too much rain for Miss Tilney to venture, must yet be a question. It was too dirty for Mrs. Allen to accompany her husband to the pump room. Got anything to say about that one? He accordingly set off by himself, and Catherine had barely watched him down the street when her notice was claimed by the approach of the same 2 open carriages containing the same 3 people that had surprised her so much a few mornings back. Oh no! Isabella, my brother, and Mr. Thorpe, I declare. They are coming for me, perhaps, but I shall not go. I cannot go, indeed, for you know Miss Tilney may still call. Mrs. Allen agreed to it. John Thorpe was soon with them, and his voice was with them yet sooner, for on the stairs he was calling out to Miss Morland to be quick. Make haste, as he threw open the door. Put on your hat this moment. There is no time to be lost. We are going to Bristol. How do you, Mrs. Allen? To Bristol? Is that not a great way off? But, however, I cannot go with you today because I am engaged. I expect some friends every moment. This was, of course, vehemently talked down as no reason at all. Mrs. Allen was called on to second him, and the 2 others walked in to give their assistance. This must be Catherine. No, Isabel. My sweetest Catherine, is not this delightful? We shall have the most heavenly drive. You are to thank your brother and me for the scheme. It darted into our heads at breakfast time, I verily believe at the same instant, and we should have been off 2 hours ago if it had not been for this detestable rain. But it does not signify. The nights are moonlit, and we shall do delightfully. Oh, I am in such ecstasies at the thought of a little country air and quiet. So much better than going to the lower rooms. We shall drive directly to Clifton and dine there. And as soon as dinner is over, if there is time, go on to Kingsweeton. I doubt our being able to do so much, said Morland. Wait, never mind. This is the brother. I doubt our being able to do so much, said Morland. You croaking fellow, cried Thorpe. We shall be able to do 10 times more. King Sweeton, I, and Blaze Castle too, and anything else we can hear of. But here as your sister says, she will not go. Blaze Castle, cried Catherine. What is that? This sounds like a Gothic romance novel set up to me. Frog. The finest place in England, worth going 50 miles at a time to see. What, is it really a castle? An old castle? The oldest in the kingdom. Who's speaking? It's got to be John. But is it like what one reads of? Exactly, the very same. It's going to be like a shanty. But now really, are there towers and long galleries? By dozens. Then I should like to see it, but I cannot go. Not go? My beloved creature, what do you mean? I cannot go because, looking down as she spoke, fearful of Isabella's smile, I expect Miss Tilney and her brother to call on me to take a country walk. They promised to come at 12, only it rained, but now as it is so fine, I dare not say they will be here soon. Not they, indeed, cried Thorpe, for as we turned into Broad Street, I saw them. Does he not drive a phaeton with the bright chestnuts? I do not know, indeed. I have like a wool skirt on, and it's quite annoying, let me just say. Yes, I know he does. I saw him. Let's read this. You gave me a little sticker. I don't know what it means. Where was I? Yes, I know he does. I saw him. You are talking of the man you danced with last night, are you not? Yes. Well, I saw him at that moment turn up the Lansdowne Road, driving a smart-looking girl. This is false! This is slander. Did you indeed? Did, upon my soul. Knew him again directly, and he seemed to have got some very pretty cattle, too. It is very odd, but I suppose they thought it would be too dirty for a walk. And well they might, for I never saw so much dirt in my life. Walk. We could no more walk than you could fly. It has not been so dirty the whole winter. It is ankle deep everywhere. Isabella corroborated it. My dearest Catherine, Oh, wait. I gotta go faster. My dearest Catherine, you cannot form an idea of the dirt. Come, you must go. You cannot refuse going now. I should like to see the castle, but may we go all over it? May we go up every staircase and into every suite of rooms? Yes, every hole and corner. But then, if they should only be gone for an hour till it is drier, and call by and by. Make yourself easy. There is no danger of that. For I heard Tilney hallooing a man who was just passing by on horseback that they were going as far as Wick's Rocks. Then I will. Shall I go, Mrs. Allen? Just as you please, my dear. Mrs. Allen, you must persuade her to go, was the general cry. Mrs. Allen was not inattentive to it. Well, my dear, said she, suppose you go. And in 2 minutes they were off. Catherine's feelings as she got into the carriage were in a very unsettled state, divided between regret for the loss of one great pleasure and the hope of enjoying another, almost its equal in degree, however unlike in kind. She could not think that Tilney's She could not but think that Tilneys had acted quite well by her, in so readily giving up their engagement without sending her any message of excuse. It was now but an hour later than the time fixed on for the beginning of their walk, and in spite of what she had heard of the prodigious accumulation of dirt in the course of that hour, she could not from her own observation help thinking that they might have gone with very little inconvenience. To feel herself slighted by them was very painful. On the other hand, the delight of exploring an edifice like Udolpho, as her fancy represented Blaise Castle to be, was such a counterpose of good as might console her for almost anything. They passed briskly down Pulteney Street and through Laura Place without the exchange of many words. Thorpe talked to his horse as she met Meditated is 2 T's, mediated is 1 T. um, as she meditated by turns on broken promises and broken arches, phaetons and false hangings, tilneys and trapdoors. Ooh. Go. I can't mask my agonies quite as much, but I'll do it. As they entered Argyle buildings, however, she was roused by this address from her companion. Who is sorry. Who is that girl who looked at you so hard as she went by? Who? Where? On the right-hand pavement. She must be almost out of sight now. Catherine looked round and saw Miss Tilney leaning on her brother's arm, walking slowly down the street. She saw them both looking back at her. Stop, stop, Mr. Thorpe, she impatiently cried. It is Miss Tilney, it is indeed. How could you tell me they were gone? Stop, stop, I will get out this moment and go to them. But to what purpose did she speak? Thorpe only lashed his horse into a brisker trot. I hate him. And the Tilneys, who had soon ceased to look after her, were in a moment out of sight round the corner of Lower Place, and in another moment she was herself whisked into the marketplace. Still, however, during the length of another street, she entreated him to stop. This is now a kidnapping, unfortunately. I regret to inform you, this is now a kidnapping. Pray stop, Mr. Thorpe. I cannot go on. I will not go on. I must go back to Miss Tilney. Like, I don't want you to throw yourself out of a moving carriage, but also throw yourself out of the moving carriage. But Mr. Thorpe only laughed, smacked his whip, encouraged his horses, made odd noises, and drove on. It's like, no, it's just Liam Neeson. What are you talking about? I can't flip this page. Okay. Made odd noises and drove on, and Catherine, angry and vexed as she was, having no power of getting away, except for jumping out of the carriage, which I don't encourage, but also encourage, was obliged to give up the point and submit. Her reproaches, however, were not spared. How could you deceive me so, Mr. Thorpe? How could you say that you saw them driving up in the Lansdowne Road? I would not have had it happen for the world. They must think it so strange, so rude of me, to go by them two without saying a word. You do not know how vexed I am. I shall have no pleasure at Clifton, nor in anything else. I had rather 10,000 times rather get out now and walk back to them. How could you say you saw them driving out in Phaeton? Thorpe defended himself very stoutly, declared he had never seen two men so much alike in his life, and would hardly give up the point of its having been Tilney himself. Disgusting. Their drive, even when this subject was over, was not likely to be very agreeable. Catherine's complacence was no longer what it had been in their former airing. She listened reluctantly, and her replies were short. Blaise Castle remained her only comfort. Towards that she still looked at intervals with pleasure. Though rather than be disappointed of the promised walk, and especially rather than be thought ill of by the Tilneys, she would willingly have given up all the happiness which its walls could supply, the happiness of a progress through a long suite of lofty rooms, exhibiting the remains of magnificent furniture, though now for many years deserted, the happiness of being stopped in their way along narrow winding vaults by a low grated door, or even of having their lamp, their only lamp, extinguished by a sudden gust of wind, and of being left in total darkness. In the meanwhile, they proceeded on their journey without any mischance, and were within view of the town of Keensham. And were within view of the town of Keensham when a halloo from Morland, who was behind them, made his friend pull up to know what was the matter. The others came close enough for conversation, and Morland said, "We had better go back, Thorpe. It is too late to go on today. Your sister thinks so, as well as I. We have been exactly an hour coming from Pulteney Street, very little more than 7 miles, and I suppose we have at least 8 more to go. We'll never do. We set out a great deal too late. We had much better put it off till another day, and turn around. It is all one to me, replied Thorpe rather angrily, and instantly turning his horse, they were on their way back to Bath. Rude. If your brother had not got such a damned beast to drive, he said soon afterwards, we might have done it very well. That's not true, because you were in the front, leading the pace. Dare I say, setting it. We might have done it very well. My horse would have trotted to Clifton within the hour if left to himself, and I have almost broke my arm with pulling into that cursed broken-winded jade's pace. Morland is a fool for not keeping a horse and gait of his own. No, he is not, said Catherine warmly, for I am sure he could not afford it. And why cannot he afford it? Because he has not money enough. And whose fault is that? Nobody's that I know of. I love her. Dastard is right. Thorpe then said something in the loud, incoherent way to which he often had recourse, about its being a damned thing to be miserly, and that if people who rolled in money could not afford things, he did not know who could, which Catherine did not even endeavor to understand. Disappointed of what was to have been the consolation for her first disappointment, she was less and less disposed either to be agreeable herself or to find her companion. So, and they returned to Pulteney Street without her speaking 20 words. As she entered the house, the footman told her that a gentleman and lady had called and inquired for her a few minutes after her setting off. That when he told them she was gone out with Mr. Thorpe, the lady had asked whether any message had been left for her. Classic move. Big mistake. And on his saying no, had felt for a card, but said she had none about her, and went away. Pondering over these heart-rending tidings, Catherine walked slowly upstairs. At the head of them she was met by Mr. Allen, who, on hearing the reason of their speedy return, said, I am glad your brother had so much sense. I am glad you are come back. It was a strange, wild scheme. Excuse me. They all spent the evening together at Thorpe's. Catherine was disturbed and out of spirits, but Isabella seemed to find a pool of commerce in the fate of which... Boop, boop. Something's happening. Catherine was disturbed. Oh no, I'd already did that. But Isabella seemed to find a pool of commerce in the fate which she had shared by private partnership with Morland, a very good equivalent for the quiet and country air of the inn at Clifton. Her satisfaction, too, in not being at the lower rooms was spoken more than once. How I pity the poor creatures that are going there. How glad I am that I am not amongst them. I wonder whether it would be a full ball or not. They have not begun dancing yet. I would not be there for all the world. It is so delightful to have an evening now and then to oneself. I dare say it will not be a very good ball. I know the Mitchells will not be there. I am sure I pity everybody that is. But I dare say, Mr. Morland, you long to be at it, do you not? I'm sure you do. Well, pray do not let anybody here be a restraint to you. I dare say we could do very well without you, but you men think yourselves of such consequence. Wow, I really loved my reading of that. Catherine could almost have accused Isabella of being wanting in tenderness towards herself and her sorrows. So very little did they appear to dwell on her mind, and so very inadequate was the comfort she offered. Do not be so dull, my dearest creature, she whispered. You will quite break my heart. It's amazingly shocking, to be sure, but the Tilneys were entirely to blame. Why were they not more punctual? It was dirty indeed, but what did that signify? I am sure John and I should not have minded it. I never mind going through anything where a friend is concerned. That is my disposition, and John is just the same. He has amazingly strong feelings. Good heavens, what a delightful hand you have got. Kings, I vow. I never was so happy in my life. I would 50 times rather you should have them than myself. Oh, wait, no. I would 50 times rather you should have them than myself. And now I may dismiss my heroine to sleepless couch, which is the true heroine's portion, to a pillow strewed with thorns and wet with tears. And lucky may she think herself if she get another good night's rest in the course of the next 3 months. Jane! I love it. Let's see. No. No, I don't think I'm going to make it through that in the next 5 minutes. Scandal. It's a scandal. It's an outrage. I enjoyed the use of the word jade in this, which is like, here's my translation. It's like a scoundrel, basically. I just love a jade. I hope it's. I'm gonna look at the etymology of that. I don't know why it would be that word, but it's from one of my favorite lines in Much Ado About Nothing. That I think just like, oh, it carries so much of the plot of like before what happened in the plot is carried in this one line, and it's a line from Beatrice, and she's just had her first, she and Benedict have just had their first little tiff. He says something rude, and she goes, "You always end with a jade's trick. I know you of old." Which means that they've had past relationships. And to me, that means that he like spurned her at some point. Isn't that so good? I know you of old. Like, that just means to me, like, there's something extra going on here. Anyways, if you are looking for a great adaptation of Much Ado About Nothing to watch, on YouTube, you can watch a full version of the David Tennant, Catherine Tate version, directed by Josie Rourke. It's one of the smartest Shakespeare adaptations I've ever watched with my own two eyes. And Josie Rourke is recently made the transition to film, and she directed Mary, Queen of Scots, which I still haven't seen, but I really want to. So anyways, class, that's your reading for tonight. It's just a really, really fun adaptation, and David Tennant and Catherine Tate are just so good in it. It's like, it's a modern adaptation, and there's, oh my god, my computer's about to die. But I have my charger right there. There's no reason she should be on death's door. But like, one of my favorite scenes is they're doing one of like the romantic scenes, and there's a party going on, but it's clearly a ways away, but you can hear that party music. It's like when you're outside of a party and you can still hear the music, but you're not feeling it. And like that level of like heartbreak and loneliness is just like, that's such a feeling that she captured. Anyways, go watch the David Tennant Much Ado About Nothing, because we love it. Anyways, I could talk about Much Ado About Nothing for a while, because I think it's such a beautiful play. It's so good. Yeah, I'll tell you about my Hamlet adaptation tomorrow. Hamlet is a show that I don't like very much, but I think you can have fun with it. Anyways, that's all I have to say for today. Much ado about nothing. I did a presentation in class once about it. I did it really fast because the professor was like, "You have 10 minutes." And I'm like, "Oh boy." And then he was like, "Why did you go so fast?" I'm like, "Because I had 10 minutes and a lot to say." Okay, what's today? Today's Friday. Delicious. It was a film class too. I made it work. Oh look, 3 people. So tomorrow's Saturday, so I will be in at 3. And yeah, we're good. And it'll be a good time. I'm going to go make a birthday card for my brother really, really quickly. And I will see all of you wonderful, beautiful, lovely, incredible, kind souls tomorrow at 3. Okie doke. Have a good time doing whatever you're doing tonight. Goodbye. Big love.